Class is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey everybody, this is Randy Jones with eThink Education. I appreciate you joining us today for Moodle in Higher Ed for improved learning outcomes. Quite a good bit of attendance and registration for this session, and I know people are still joining us here, but we'll start with a little bit of housekeeping. First of all, you're on mute, so if there's any noise in the background in your office, no problem at all. Second, if you could find for me now the questions pane in the GoToWebinar control panel, say a quick hello to us. What are you looking to learn today? Where are you dialing or connecting in from? Our best sessions are really the sessions where we have a little bit of interaction and back and forth during the session. So if you could find that questions pane now, say a quick hello as folks are trickling in here. I'd appreciate it. We'll get going here in about 30 seconds. People from all over the world in today. East Coast, West Coast here in the US, Canada, South Africa. All right. Nova Scotia. Excellent, excellent. Okay, well, to respect everybody's time, let's go ahead and get started here. Again, the title of today's session is Moodle in Higher Ed for Improved Learning Outcomes. My name is Randy Jones. I'm joined today by Claire Mesha, who's our Director of Support Services, and Claire will be doing the hands-on demo piece today for us. Claire, I appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, happy to be here.
All right, and a quick agenda, and we're going to run through this. I know we're probably going to want to get to the hands-on piece here relatively quickly, but we'll run through a little bit of why Moodle. I did look at the registration list. It looks like we have quite a few Moodlers on here already, but there are some folks who are using other LMSs that might want to talk a little bit about why Moodle. And then a little bit about eThink, what we do. We're the largest Moodle partner in the world. We'll discuss that a little bit. A few other pieces I added in for today, and then we'll get into the live hands-on demo. And we'll make sure to try to save some time for some Q&A. But don't hold them for us, please. If you have a question, feel free at any time to throw it in there. If we can answer it in the flow of the webinar, we're happy to do so. If not, we'll definitely get to it there at the end. So in the registration, you were asked what you would like to learn. So this will help Claire and I sort of talk through some specific things. And this is really pretty basic and things that we'd expect to see here. Interesting students without any level of training. I guess my quick comment there is Moodle, especially when hosted and designed by experts, is really intuitive. So there's certainly some training that we could do, and I could talk through that. But it is a really intuitive platform, especially when configured appropriately. And how to improve the Moodle version currently in use at my university, we get that quite a bit. Question about integrations. We will touch on integrations. Analytics, I think we could do an hour probably on analytics. We do make every report we've ever been asked for available to all of our clients, and we'll build any report you want in Moodle. But if you're looking for true analytics, there's some really good solutions out there. Even if you're looking for above and beyond Moodle analytic functionality, there's Tableau and IntelliBoard and just some really great solutions. But that might be best served for a one-off conversation, because I do think we could probably talk through that quite extensively. So for those of you who are not overly familiar with Moodle, or you're not currently using Moodle, it is the most widely used LMS in the world. And is an open source LMS. Quite a few advantages to using an open source solution. Flexibility, the ability to integrate with the solution. But what we see as the primary advantage is there are many partners around the world that are Moodle partners that can provide our services. Here at eThink, I'm pretty confident in saying our support team is the best in the world, and that's helped us become the largest partner in the world. But when you choose an open source solution, that's one of the advantages that you have is if you're working with somebody to host and provide services, and they're not providing the best possible service, you have other options that can provide you with the same platform, just with a higher level of service. And you can self-host if you've decided you want to go down that path. We do hear constantly, pretty much every day, of folks who are struggling a bit with self-hosting Moodle. It can be, if you're not a Moodle expert, a bit difficult. But you certainly have that ability with an open source solution. Best of breed simply meaning there's a ton of really great solutions out there on the market that can complement your learning management system. If you've been to EDUCAUSE or any of the other higher ed specific conferences, we were just out at Aleutian Live. We were just there. There's new products popping up constantly that could really be beneficial for your college or university. And even organizations, professional education organizations that we work with. So as a best of breed solution, the LMS lives in the middle of the learning ecosystem, and other complementary solutions can really be plugged in really easily and integrated into the LMS. I mentioned it's flexible. I looked today, there's 155 million learners. I just looked earlier today, that's what it's up to. Pretty amazing. And it is best to be deployed by experts, as I alluded to there. What our team does here at eThink is we are those experts. So we're a certified Moodle partner. As I mentioned, we are the largest in the world at this point. Our key differentiator is our fully managed model. So we essentially become the extension of our client's team responsible for their Moodle learning management system. So we do the hosting, a discovery process that leads into an implementation. It is a really detailed discovery process during the implementation phase where we're looking to learn what's the perfect learning platform for your college or university or organization, and then trying to work backwards to build that ideal and configure that ideal solution. An awful lot of consulting. I mentioned sort of the rapid expansion of the learning ecosystem. We consult with our clients around that. If they were to come to us and say, what plagiarism tools do you recommend? What video conferencing tools do you recommend? We provide that sort of consulting. In higher ed specifically, other than our service model, which I think really separates us, the second reason that folks usually move to us is our real-time student information system integration. We are an Aleutian partner, but our integrations are agnostic when it comes to the SIS, and they are real-time. So if you have a student who registers for a course right now in the SIS, in real time they are able to go ahead into Moodle and access that course. I'll talk a little bit more about integrations, but there's a couple keys to the real-time integration that really do separate us. And then I've mentioned it a few times already. I'll mention it a few more. It really is Claire's team and our service model that separate us in the market. We'll talk a little bit more about that here shortly. Other things we do, branding and theming. There are some specific themes that we typically like to stick to just because we know from the mobile perspective that they won't break, that they work really well. Every one of our sites is a bit different. The branding, the colors, the logos, sort of the navigation through the system as well. One other differentiator here at eThink is our third-party plugin policy, which just states that we will install and configure any third-party plugin as long as that plugin is kept up to date and is still usable within the latest versions of Moodle. A lot of Moodle providers out there have specific plugins that they allow you to use. And if you want others, you either have to pay, which never fun, right? I'm sure some of you who are sitting and listening have had that experience. Or it's simply a no, which, the M in Moodle stands for modular. So we try to stay away from saying no if it is a plugin that can be used, that is kept up to date. A few other things here we'll touch on: training. I'll talk a little bit more about our new eThink Academy, which is really exciting. We do provide professional development. So if you'd like us to come either on site or through a session like this, we can do Moodle specific professional development, which we would make unique to your individual organization. And that's something that we'd be happy to talk about. And then Claire's team has actually launched the eThink Academy, which is new and really exciting. We've had our first couple cohorts here. Right now there's 3 classes, and we're going to be expanding upon this. We have the make the most of new features, building a better Moodle, and then the educator's certification program, which has come out directly through Moodle headquarters, which we're hosting for them. So if you want to learn more about the eThink Academy, reach out to us after the session. We'd be happy to teach you and tell you a little bit more about what we do in each of these courses and how we may be able to get your administrators, your users into these courses to learn a bit more about Moodle. So I talked about our service level, and I'll peel back the onion a little bit here and open up the window shade and give you some statistics. We actually have brand new stats here that I saw this morning in a team meeting that we'll be updating shortly, but they're very similar. As of our last audit, the last 6-month period, here's our average first reply time to a support ticket. This is really unheard of, candidly. All kudos here go to Claire's team. They work tremendously hard. They are tremendously knowledgeable on Moodle. It's one of the advantages. We have employees all over the world, and one of the advantages we have is that there's great Moodle talent out there worldwide, and we've hired what we consider to be the best team. So see, in October, our first response time, or September, to a support ticket was 33 minutes. And when those tickets come in, if we can, we'll go ahead and just do what you're asking of us, accomplish that task, close the ticket, and move on as a part of the fully managed service. So exciting numbers there. And if you are running with another Moodle service, we do have quite a bit of experience migrating from other Moodle platforms onto ours. So in the last, I think this is about 4 years here for this data, we've had 184 of our clients come to us from other Moodle platforms. So if you're self-hosting, or you're with a provider that's not a partner, or if you're with a different Moodle partner and you're just not happy, ton of experience there. And this next slide is my favorite. Here's the number of clients in our 11 years of business that we've lost to other Moodle partners. I remember making this slide. I think it took about 13 seconds, and it's probably still my favorite slide that we utilize. We've never lost one of our clients to another Moodle partner. So 184 headed our way, and 0 in 11 years of business that we've ever lost. And again, I do think that's due to the support model. And to hear it from me is one thing. I'm clearly biased. But here's what some of our clients have said to us. We utilize Slack for internal communication, and we have a channel that we call eThink Love. And I actually just stole these 25 minutes ago. So these are fresh. I've noticed I put quotes around some and not in others. My apologies for that. But this is what we share when a client says something favorable to us, and we are a remote team working all around the world. So one way we connect is by sharing this type of feedback. So really fun to read this every day. And I won't read all of this to you. I'll let you read it yourself. I love this last one, though. Daniel, who's in the Republic of Georgia, is where he is located. And it was Thank you, Sir Daniel. Great night of Ethink. I love that one. That must have been Monday morning after Game of Thrones, I'd have to assume. So anyway, a little bit from our clients, knowing you guys are there, there's just so much I don't have to stress about. Oh, gosh, it's so great to hear that, right? Because that's what we preach every day, and that's really what we're aiming for. So some great feedback here. All right, my last slide, and then we'll throw it over to Claire for some hands-on here. I talked a little bit about integrations. Our SIS integration, as I mentioned, it is the best in the market that I have seen. In real time, users, courses can go back and forth between those two systems. Midterm and final grades as well. Attendance can go back and forth between those two solutions. One that's interesting here is the non-academic course integration. We see the need for this actually a lot, just with different ways. Maybe if you have a course that doesn't live in your student information system, freshman seminar, for example, is one that we hear from time to time, that we're able to bring that data and pull that data into Moodle pretty seamlessly. Cross-listed or cross-tallied courses, we hear all the time that folks have trouble with those. And that's something that I think we've come really close to perfecting, really the ease moving from that data into the from the student information system, into Moodle. And then again, no cost for third-party integrations or modules. Anything that again has been kept up to date that we think is going to work in your Moodle site and isn't going to break your Moodle site, we'll go ahead and implement those for you. All right, so that's a quick overview. Hopefully it was quick. What I'm going to do now is throw it over to Claire. I'll go ahead and check any questions that you may have asked to this point. Again, please don't be shy. Feel free to ask any questions, and we'll try to get those answered for you. So Claire, I appreciate it. I have pushed the presenter over your way here.
All right, thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. Are you seeing the right screen there, Randy?
There it is. Yep, just popped
Okay.
in the full screen.
Excellent, thank you. All right, so today we wanted to dig into several strategies and ways in which Moodle can be utilized to help your bottom line, help improve your learning outcomes, as institutions predominantly in the higher education space. That's where my background with Moodle comes from, as many others on the support team. We sort of got involved with Moodle as instructional technologists and have a wide variety of experiences with helping institutions use Moodle to satisfy their institutional goals, programmatic learning outcomes, and so on. So we're going to start off today, give you a little high-level overview before I dive right in, just talking about ways in which Moodle can be used to customize the learning experience, some changes to the Moodle dashboard that you might not be as familiar with, depending on the version of Moodle you're currently using. Looking at some of the built-in features related to access restrictions and completion tracking and completion settings that can be used to track student progress and tie into a lot of other areas of functionality that Moodle offers. In terms of providing social learning opportunities in your online distance learning courses, while still being able to provide personalized feedback with the various communication tools and grading tools that are available in Moodle. Going kind of full circle, I'll be talking about activity completion a lot today, and how it touches a lot of different components of the site. Looking at how different activities give you different ways to monitor and assess student learning. Then taking sort of a step back, I know often we have a lot of learning Moodle administrators on these webinars. So taking a step back from the site level, looking at mapping, the academic curriculum with the competency-based feature set and other reporting that's possible at the site level, programmatic level, learner level, and so on. So with that sort of outline, we'll get started with ways in which you can customize the user experience. So here I've logged in as a student user. And one of the first things that you can be presented with, this is utilizing the user tour functionality, is this instructional overlay that pops up to give the users an orientation, how to navigate around, what areas of the page are going to be most relevant to them. This is really helpful. We have found following an upgrade or a change in your site theme to kind of give everyone the lay of the land and call out specific new areas of content that you may have added or new ways in which they could engage with the site. On the front page, ways that they can look at their dashboard, look at the calendar. You might put a lot of hard work into putting these resources out there, and it's often nice to draw users' attention to them. So this was the dashboard level, homepage level tour, and you can get really granular with where you want this to display. You can have a separate tour show on the dashboard for you. And at any point, individual users can reset them if they want to see them again on their in the footer of their page, or administrators can refresh it for everyone so that the next time you log in, everyone is presented with that. So I think the dashboard tour is particularly helpful. It points out some of the newer features in the latest versions in terms of how the different ways you can look at your courses, your recently accessed ones, the timeline in terms of upcoming due dates on assignments, your course overview, whether that shows you your percent completion. You can favorite certain courses. You can hide them if it's maybe just like a resource that isn't as relevant to you, but you might consult at a different time. So these dashboards, these user tours the dashboard's fully customizable, and as well as the user tour. So you can have them show in different areas of the site and call out and do the overlay, pointing out whatever areas of a course or so here's a course tour that is pointing out some site level features as well. But you could have it be really specific to say, the first thing I want you to do is take a look at the syllabus. And then you're going to go here. I saw a lot of different ways, with videos, screencast videos that online faculty have sought to do this in the past, but now you have this built-in feature that's pretty user-friendly to really customize these. And I think this goes a long way in terms of setting the users up towards success. And there are, as I mentioned on the dashboard, there are some new features that I think are really crucial as, based on feedback that we've been seeing from the learners in terms of on the go, they want to easily see notifications and messaging. Thanks to some of the new regulations in Europe related to privacy and GDPR compliance, you can now get really specific with what types of messaging you allow between users, at the course level, at the site level, interpersonally as well. It's all, customizable depending on your institution's policies and best practices. So this is all at your fingertips. It's no longer, in blocks that you had or certain pages you have to find. It's always right there. And this can be configured to, you can replicate this closely in the mobile app as well, which is increasingly where students say they want this information on the go, as well as while they are working within on their desktop browsers. So when it comes to access restrictions and completion settings, There are a lot of different ways to leverage those feature sets. So you can see these little checkboxes here. So at its base form, you may have seen these in your Moodle instance before and not paid close attention to them, but they are really powerful. Two different types of checkboxes that you see here for whether an activity is required or an instructor has set completion criteria on that, or whether it's something that's an optional resource or something that you would like the students to check off as themselves. As an online instructor, I liked enabling these the completion criteria on almost everything, because then you get a lot more information from the instructor side in terms of who has completed what. You spend a lot of time, developing these resources, and I think it gives you a lot of insightful information in terms of who is actually viewing them, especially if they're optional things you're adding for additional context, or those who might be interested in delving further into a certain topic. So this is your really traditional course as far as weekly, sort of week by week. It's using the topic format. You could easily use the weekly format to have the dates attached to these different topics in terms of which calendar dates that falls within the semester. But this one is just kept generic, which makes it easy to recycle from term to term without having to manually change a whole lot. And we're going to switch over to an instructor account here so that we can take a look at some other ways in which you can drill into this information. So in Biology 101 here, you can see we have activity completion also set up. It looks a little bit different, and you can see the course looks a little bit different. This is using a third-party plugin. It's a different course format than the ones that are default in Moodle core, but it is a nice way to kind of liven up and change the way in which your course is structured. It can show a % completion for each section of the course, which I think is a really cool aspect of this format. And you can see the activity completion bubbles instead of boxes. But if you go into this, into your more area of a course, and this is why I think often activity completion, you may not know the full power of it because the reports associated with it are a little bit hidden. You have to know where to look. So if I drill into my course administration area, I can look at my activity completion report. There are different ones that do slightly different things. So this one just provides you with a matrix of all of your users and all of your course components, your activities and resources, and lets you see, who has completed, whether it's view or submit to that assignment or take that quiz, again, depending on how you set it up. You can see at a glance or drill down into a specific, part of your roster. You can export it to filter it further. I find this to be really helpful. This activity report is a little bit higher level, just lets you know per activity or resource, how many views have there been by how many users, when was the last time it was accessed. I found this to be interesting to see how many times students are referring back to the resources in the general section, your syllabus, your course outline, your project guidelines, those types of things. Or, especially around exam time, when your midterm or your final exam, to see, how many resources are students returning to in the previous weeks. I think this report gives you some insight into that. And then probably the most powerful report, I'll pull it up here. You can look per activity module. So I can see, this 1 minute paper. I'm going to look back, I don't know how busy this course has been, so I'm going to select 11 months, but you could do, a week, a few days, drill into which role you want to see. So I want to take a look at my learners, my students, and, who has engaged with this activity. So I can see that I have a few that, have looked at it, but there are, several, many more that haven't. Again, you can use your hyperlinked alphabet here to drill in. But what I love most about this, this report, and if you're utilizing messaging on your site, is that I can easily, so if I show all of them at once, all of my students, that's one of the tricks here. And then I go down to the bottom. I can select all of my no's, and then I can send them a message. I find this can be really, powerful as a retention strategy, especially in fully online or blended courses, where it kind of takes a week or two for students to understand the format and the expectations. I would use this to, remind students, you haven't taken the quiz on the syllabus, or I've seen you haven't accessed the syllabus yet. It's really important that you read it. Or a week or two into the course, if they're already starting to fall behind, you haven't posted to the forums that are required for your online attendance, you haven't submitted an assignment, you can use this report, here to monitor that progress and maybe who has fallen off the wagon early on and maybe just needs some additional clarification in terms of what the expectations are. So I think these reports are really powerful. Activity completion can be tied into other areas as well. You can look at things like, pull up the right. Okay. Got a lot of examples here, so I just want to make sure I'm grabbing the right one. So here you can see that there are different restriction sets. So this leverages activity completion and also access restrictions, so that way they cannot advance until they have met the activity completion requirements. So this is saying that you can't, look at the review materials until you review the lesson. You can't advance on to, the second unit until you complete the first unit. You can really layer these based on, required, so you can see the required score. They can proceed on to unit 2 if they get an 85% or better on this unit 1 assessment quiz. So I find this really interesting and powerful as far as a course design perspective as well. You can make it easy if you only want to unveil 1 week of your course at a time. You can go in and set access restrictions based on dates. So if I came in here to edit week 2, I can specify that they cannot, I could do it based on activity completion, or you could just do it based on date. So, I don't want them looking ahead until, the week ends. So until, it won't open up until tomorrow. I don't want them looking too far in advance. So you can set this and forget it and let Moodle, automatically open up these topics based on these restrictions as you go. Other situations, we've seen this used often. You might be team teaching. And so you can see here, you can restrict items based on their role. So you might have teaching assistants and you're leaving, lecture notes or marking guides in there for them. You can keep them hidden so that you can see them and they can see them. They're hidden from the student's view, and you can only have them visible based on whether or not they have the teaching assistant or teacher role. So that's another way that restrict access can be used. So with that, I also wanted to pull up, going back a little bit more to feedback. So there are a lot of different ways in which, obviously, you're probably familiar with the different activity types. You have your assignments, your quizzes, your forums, and so on. Each of them have, different applications and ways to use them to provide, to use them as assessment measures and to provide feedback with them. So if I look at, I'm going to turn editing off. One of which is a quiz, obviously really popular, easy way to evaluate whether students have mastered a particular topic. And then from the instructor side, you can provide feedback at multiple levels, whether you provide feedback overall on the quiz based on how they scored. So, you got between 80 and 100%, good job. If you got between, 60 and 80%, maybe, try again, use one of your attempts to see if you can increase your score. You can also, provide feedback on individual answer choices as well. Why is the selected answer wrong? And I think that is really powerful and can be, set to be adaptive. You can allow for students to take, multiple tries, or, so that might be more applicable to more of using a quiz as a learning activity as opposed to, an end of a unit assessment where you're checking for, knowledge and understanding of those objectives. So really powerful. There's a lot. You can allow each attempt to build on the last. So it's a cumulative process when they take a quiz, or each attempt stands alone. When you're building the quiz itself, you can control whether questions are being randomized, whether they the questions themselves or the answer choices are shuffled. So you can really create unique or individualized experiences within, what I think a lot of us have just always thought of as a multiple choice quiz. It's a lot more than that. There's a lot of great plugins for question types that I think make this a lot more of a more robust learning tool than it may have been in the past. So here's where I can, as an instructor, review all of the attempts on the quiz. I think this is a really powerful thing to see. If you're randomizing questions, obviously that has an impact. But if all students are taking the same 10 questions and you see everybody's getting, question 3 wrong, maybe that's just a poor question, or maybe that's something that a topic that you need to go back to, that's something that the students just didn't understand. So I think you have your basic review attempt summary. You can drill down into individual attempts. So this is an example of what the student would see. You could control whether students see this as soon as they complete an attempt, or if they would only, be able to review this once the quiz is closed. You could control whether they do see the correct answers or not, either during their allowed attempts or after. So really flexible and customizable depending on what your ultimate goal is. So as we scroll through here, we can see, how she answered. We can see that there's feedback for each one. This is partially correct. Here we have drag and drop questions, which you can get really interesting with in terms of drag and drop onto different images and so on. You can see here we have feedback using the picture as the feedback to specify, it might be a different question asking you to place different capitals, but the feedback just shows all of the states and capitals for students to reference. So you can see this is a question that I just that the student skipped over. Again, this is sort of a matching in terms of you have a drop down. So a lot of different question types that you may not have access to now, but may be worth considering in terms of advancing your assessments using the quiz tool to the next level. Another thing that I wanted to show is that you can also, there are integrations out there for proctored exams. So if you go to take it, I should actually probably be, so if I get my Chrome extension, it'll pop up, and this is something that's integrated. It watches you on your webcam, the students on their webcam, as looks for certain clues. There are a lot of different solutions out there, but this is an example of how these assessments can be extended by other integrations, solutions that exist out there for proctoring. That has remained a concern for certain for institutions as they begin to tackle online learning and launching online programs. How do we maintain that the education they are receiving is sound, and that the students actually are who they say they are, and so on and so forth. So I think all of that is really important to understand that there are lots of other solutions out there, and it's part of what we refer to on other webinars you may have joined about the e-learning ecosystem. Moodle is modular, and there's a lot that can be added on top of it to enhance what you're currently doing if it isn't something that's built into the system. But increasingly, we are seeing more and more that sorry, I lost my train of thought. We are seeing increasingly more and more that Moodle is striving to get these features integrated into core, and I'll talk about a little bit more of those. Like I showed you with the reports and the analytics at a quiz level. They're continually adding more of that based on the voices of the global community of Moodle users, to which Randy gave an outstandingly high number earlier, which I forget the specifics, but it's shocking. So another thing that I wanted to show is related to rubric grading. There are a lot of ways in which you can enhance your traditional assignments, and I think this is a great example of where Moodle has shown has listened to that feedback, and it has integrated a lot of these new features into core. So for example here, this is a weekly writing assignment. Students are asked to submit a paper. As an instructor, I can go in, and one of the best features and latest versions has been this quick grading feature, where it takes the student's document and translates it into a mark-upable PDF. So I can draw on it, I can highlight, I can add comments, in addition to building it. You can build in rubrics. You can have it just based on a numerical grade, or this particular assignment is showing you, you have these great buttons down here on the bottom to swap which one you want to see more of. So I can define a rubric and then have it, side by side. I can go through, fill out which element of the rubric they scored on, see that they have a current grade. out of 100 or 50 or whatever the total points were. And I can add feedback comments. So it gives you opportunities to add feedback based on each of the specific criteria defined in your rubric. And then you can provide more, maybe overall general narrative comments, at the end about, how you'd like to see them improve for next time. You can also attach files as well if there's, an article you wanted them to read as a follow-up, or, you had something else that you wanted to mark up and return to them. You can easily do that here. And then just, save and move on to the next student. Makes it, or you can select which student you want to move into from your drop-down menu. So I think this is a really powerful grading mechanism that has evolved very much for the better in the last couple of years in recent versions. You can also, have it set so that that rubric is presented to students as they submit the assignment, so those expectations are clear. I think that always is helpful in terms of the end outcome of student work, if they know what standards they're being evaluated on leading into it. Okay, so referring back to my outline here, as I know we have our time together is winding down. I wanted to also show a little bit more about the competencies, again, at the institution level, things that you might be interested, ways in which you might be interested in leveraging Moodle to help support some of those institutional goals you might have. So I'm gonna pull up a couple different sites here. This is one where they have, they are working with competency frameworks a little bit. So this has been evolving over the last several versions of Moodle. They've just, renamed it to student learning outcomes so that it matches their nomenclature, internally. Here is where you can see the frameworks themselves. So you have kind of your Common Core student learning outcomes here. This is where you build out the framework, define, what that standard is, define a scale for it. So all that's done at the site level. Then you can get pretty sophisticated in terms of how it drills down into, you can link it to courses, link it to the activities within those courses, and so on. So we have been working more and more with our clients who are interested in moving in this direction. It does seem to be a trend that we are seeing. And before they embark on, the work involved with fleshing out these frameworks and transitioning, their curriculum models in this manner, there's often concern about, well, it's great that you can link them to the courses and to the activities, but taking a step back, how can we see which competencies are associated with which courses? How do we drill down into individual students and how are they performing across maybe multiple frameworks? So this is, I think, still an area of exciting development and where we do a lot of consulting for our clients and working with them through this process of seeing how to use Moodle in the best way possible, depending on their end goals. So here, this is an example of the reporting that we do that Randy mentioned earlier. This is a couple examples of those reports. So this one just looks very similar to the framework overview, but allows visibility into it to non-administrators who can't manage the frameworks at the site level. So here we can see the different frameworks. If I click into one of these, it then shows me what courses have that competency, the scientific method competency associated with it. If I drill down even further, and I took a couple screenshots of these to show you, just to show you clean versions. So if I drill down into one of those courses listed on that second report, it would then show me, how many students are being evaluated against those competencies. If I then click on one of those student names, It gives me all of the competencies that student is being evaluated by in that course, and it tells me what activity it is linked to, so I could drill in further there. And then obviously there's other reporting. There's the student learning plan facing side of the competency framework as well, that allows students to see kind of where they are in the overall, trajectory of their semester or their program. And we continue to look at different ways in which we can build reports for competencies and a lot of other things. To show you a couple examples, here is one. If you're interested, you have a lot of online courses, but this is a common concern we have. You just don't think that the forum activity is enough to warrant the seat time, or to feel like the courses are as rigorous as face-to-face courses. So here's a report we developed for a client that kind of lets you see at an overview within a course, how many forums are there, how many discussions or threads within that are happening, how many posts, how many students are posting, and the student, the usage versus how many discussions and how many posting. So this was something we worked with this client to develop to meet their needs. And as Randy mentioned, we often, this gets added to our repository. It might be a good starting point for a client who asks a similar question 6 months from now, and then we tweak it, as needed to fit their needs. Another great report, this is sort of one of our classics that I think I always like to call back to when thinking, institutionally about your level of Moodle adoption and Moodle usage. You may already have a high level of adoption. You might be still struggling to, you might have some power users, but really want to encourage the rest of the faculty to start using it. Here's an example of a report that would let you help you gain some visibility into, with our integration, every course in your student information system gets a Moodle course shell. So it's there for them to utilize. Some institutions have requirements for usage, others don't. But either way, this lets you see how many courses are out there that are active, and what types of activities and resources, are they using the gradebook? Are they using it to take attendance? Is it assignment heavy, forum heavy? How often are your faculty utilizing some of the, maybe less frequently used activity types, like your glossary or your workshop, or a blog or a wiki? So again, an example of how reporting can be used to gain some insight into how your faculty are using their middle courses, and maybe identify some strategies in which you could target training on some of these lesser known activity types, or you're concerned about the level of participation in some of your fully online offerings, and so on. Increasingly, LTIs are becoming very popular components that get plugged into Moodle as well for publishing resources. That's, I think, your Pearson, MyLab and Mastering here. Tutor.com, this institution is using, they have an institution license, and this gives them some visibility into how many courses have added these external tool links out to different question banks, publisher, component resources that go along with the textbook, and so on. So the reporting is really, possibilities are endless, especially when you look at leveraging some of our partners and other tools that are out there, as far as retention and early alert, catching students before they fall behind. Here's an example of a report we built looking at absences, how many times have they been absent. Very useful, again, from an instructor or an administrator standpoint. We also have clients that use, there are dedicated solutions for this, vendors out there like Starfish, Retention Solutions, Aspire DDU offers a dropout detective. lots of options out there beyond what is just possible within the built-in Moodle reporting tools. So I always get excited about this in terms of the possibilities there. I want to leave some time for questions, but I just wanted to show one more thing because I think it's pretty cool. You know, you have your standard spreadsheet-like reports that I've shown you that we've built in. Our partners at IntelliBoard can go, you know, more into the data visualization area and have done some really great things in terms of dashboards that can be set up at your fingertips for the instructor perspective, the learner perspective. If you're using competencies, they can provide you with a competency dashboard to give you some overarching, overarching trends in terms of, you know, percent that are proficient versus not across the site. And they're starting to add in some interesting things related to retention too, reports that can be scheduled, monitors that can be set up. There are, finally, there's analytics built right into Moodle. And this is where I said I was going to come full circle. They do depend on you using activity completion and course completion settings, using your start and end dates on all of your activities and resources. There are 2 built-in models that come out of the box. And then the possibilities are endless in terms of this sort of machine learning models that you can build to watch out for certain wording signs, send alerts, send notifications to teachers and others. So, you know, I think you may have been using Moodle for, you know, kind of your day-to-day teaching and learning for many years. But I think there are always new and exciting ways to think about you know, stepping back and reevaluating the ways in which you use some of these tools and features to really enhance and help your online offerings continue to grow and evolve. So with that, I will pause so I can take a look over at the questions panel.
Excellent. Hey, thanks, Claire. That was great. Really appreciate it. There's a couple things that came through that I think I can address. First of all, I should have said this at the beginning. This will be recorded, and we'll certainly send it to all the registrants today. We had a question about our professional development offering and the eThink Academy as to whether folks have to be our clients in order to take advantage of those services. And those do come directly from Claire's team, and that answer is no, and that's a new change for us. We used to just offer those services to eThink clients, and now have gone ahead and made that change, and I think Claire's pulling up the website where we're offering it to the entire Moodleverse.
Yeah, this is something we're really excited about. Traditionally, we still provide self-paced training courses that we maintain for each new version. Our clients get copies of those with each upgrade, and we've done, you know, customized professional development or training sessions with faculty or administrators. But now we're really excited to launch the Academy and sort of bring our knowledge and expertise to the wider world, including non-clients. And we're really proud to be, you know, one of the first partners that has been, you know, certified to facilitate and offer HQ's certification program. So we're really excited about that, and you can learn more about it on our website. Sign up if you're interested in any additional information. Please feel free to ask, or if you have a group that you think might be interested in signing up. I know our sales team is eager to discuss bulk pricing with you.
Yep. Yeah, we certainly will. I've got 2 more things just to take us out here. One other question was in regards to if we can integrate with Genzabar, the SIS, and absolutely. Our SIS integration is agnostic, regardless of the SIS that you're working with. All right, so to take us out, if you'll be at any of these conferences coming up, please let us know. We'll grab some coffee, grab a bite to eat, whatever it might be. If you can get to the Moodle Moot in Philadelphia this year, it should be a really good one. We're pushing to make it a big moot, and a lot of our team is going to be presenting there. So please join us there, or any of these other conferences that you may be at if there's a conference you think we should be headed to that isn't on this list, let us know. And any questions, here's my contact information. If you're ever in Baltimore area, swing by the office. We're in Port Covington, where Under Armour is building their sort of live, work, play facility. So we'd love to meet you there. And you can meet Tuck, our office mascot. Tucker here is our CEO's pup, who tends to roam the halls in our office.
He's the best.
He's the best. 1:30 on the dot. Thanks again, Claire. I appreciate your time here today, and to the audience. A big thank you to you for your time as well. If there's anything we can do for you, a demonstration, you want to learn more about our training offerings, please feel free to reach out. All right. Cheers, everybody.
Have a great day. Take care.